Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I am joined by my co-host, Christy. Christy, how are you today?
I'm great, Lake. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. Second time recording today. We talked about all the fun of the Destiny this morning.
Yep, that was fun. You're
Christy,
wearing a different shirt.
Yes, I changed. That happens sometimes.
But it was today.
It was. Listen,
okay.
It's been a day. I needed to do some self-care and bathe, so
I need to do that, and here I am recording a podcast instead, but we won't talk about that.
No, but what we will talk about is that we have an exciting episode, first-time cruiser episodes. We love first-time cruiser episodes. We always get all of the great tips and tricks that we gloss over as frequent cruisers who have our mission, have our goals, and it's good to step back and remember the things that first-time cruisers may not have been ready for, or that they have picked up on that we have totally just glossed over episode after episode when we have veteran cruisers and repeat cruisers on.
Yeah, no, this is good. We need to step back and go back to the basics.
Absolutely. And we have a great itinerary for that as well. But with that, we would like to welcome our guest this week. She is a new Patreon member for the DCL podcast, and we would first off like to thank her for the support of the show and all of our other Patreons. But we would like to welcome Anna to the show. Anna, how are you today?
I'm doing great. And let me just thank you guys for putting on such a great show. It was such an amazing resource for me and inspiration for me while I was planning this trip. So pleasure to become a Patreon member for you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, why don't we start at the beginning? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your Disney background and what made you want to book your first Disney cruise?
Okay, so I live in the Midwest. I live in Wisconsin, and I have two kids, 9 and 13, and my husband. But my husband and I actually grew up in Orlando, and Disney was just part of my life constantly. My husband and I didn't know each other when we grew up in Orlando. We met in college, but as a kiddo, we had season passes. We went to Disney all the time. It wouldn't be uncommon for us to go to a hotel and have dinner, and then we'd walk over to Epcot and just like goof around at Epcot and then go home. And I thought I was the luckiest kid that I got to live in Orlando and I had season passes. Like we just went all the time. And then when I was in high school, I worked at Disney. And so just for a summer, I worked they called it MGM. It's now Hollywood Studios. But I just worked in a shop and I was 16 and it was great. It was a super great job. And they were debuting the Rock and Roller Coaster that summer. So they would have like cast members go and like ride the roller coaster to test it out. And I also think it was a wonderful park to work at because there was no underground area. So there was a lot of freedom of movement as a cast member. I have no idea if that still applies, but it was a wonderful experience. So that was my childhood, very fond memories of Disney, but we didn't have like those big vacations that people have where they go and spend a week there. As we had kids and stuff, a few times I would go back to Disney, like maybe a girls' trip or like one day with my kiddo, we would take our kids to Disney. I always enjoyed it. My husband always enjoyed it. He never worked at Disney, but he worked at a Disney Village. So that's what it was called back in the day. He worked at the Lego store there. And so when we would talk about family vacations, we would talk about going to Disney. And I was just really fond of that idea. However, like COVID happened. And all of a sudden, everything got shut down. And the idea of going to Disney was just like a little too overwhelming for me. Traveling anywhere was a little too overwhelming for me. And then we fast forward to now when we all start wanting to make big plans again for ourselves. And the Disney cruise just kind of kept popping up in my head. But then my husband was always like, I don't know about a cruise. Because neither one of us had never been on a cruise before. I think it made him a little nervous. But then a coworker, like I want to say maybe 1 or 2 years ago at this point, she came to work and she had like this mug from the boat. You know what I mean? Like she had this like decorative glass that she would like take around all week after being off for a week. And I was like, where'd you get that? And she's like, I did a Disney cruise and it was so wonderful. And, you know, she's an adult. She doesn't have kids, but it like totally inspired me. And I was like, that's it. We're doing it. I want to go on a Disney trip. I'm a little overwhelmed by how the parks are so complicated, you know, with all the lines and the fast passes and everything. And I just thought the cruise would be great. So I started listening to podcasts. The other thing is that our other family vacations that we did were super complicated. we went to Europe and it was amazing, but it was a multi-generational trip, all, taking trains and international flights. And I think it almost like broke my brain. It was so complicated, like doing all the travel plans, and it was a wonderful trip and I super appreciate it, but I wanted something simpler. Once again, Disney Cruise comes in and I'm like, that looks good to me. And then I have no idea how I found y'all's podcast, but I was like, this is the right amount of research for me, where it's like, I want to know what I'm getting into, but I'm just going to listen on my commute to work. And it was great. And so eventually I contacted Christy and I kind of explained what I wanted. And we found this, like I did research before on the different cruising schedules, and I wanted something for spring break out of Florida. And that's how I chose our cruise. And also, my husband loves beaches. That I wanted a cruise that would go to like as many of like the Disney beaches as possible. So I picked the one that would go to both Castaway and Lookout.
Oh, you picked an excellent itinerary and an excellent ship for a first-time cruise for sure. This was out of Fort Lauderdale, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Fort Lauderdale.
Well, you book your cruise and you watch the countdown go by. What did you book in advance? And was there anything that you wanted to book in advance that you weren't able to as a first-time cruiser?
No. Well, okay. So one thing was a royal gathering. I thought, that's free. We should do that. And there was none available. However, once I got on the boat within a day, there was some available and I was able to book that for my family.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it turned out great. And then I did like free reserve snorkeling equipment for Castaway. And I don't know why I couldn't figure out how to do it for Lookout. Or maybe I was thinking like, oh, I don't know if we'll need it 2 days in a row, like snorkeling equipment. But I did the one for Castaway where you have like snorkeling equipment and the bicycle and the tubes and all that. So that was set. And that was pretty much it as far as like things that to book beforehand.
Well, then your countdown drops to 0 and it is time for your cruise. Where did you fly into and how did you get to the port?
So we flew into Fort Lauderdale and then we flew in the day before. We stayed at the Hilton Fort Lauderdale Marina, which is like the one on the website as a recommended place to stay. So we Ubered there from the airport. And then the next day we Ubered from the hotel to the port. And one thing is we did have a 1:30 time at the port. So I actually paid $25 at the hotel for a late checkout at 1 p.m. And I thought that was great.
That honestly sounds kind of great. Well, you get to the port. Disney did recently invest in the Fort Lauderdale port to have a little bit of a nicer setup. What was the embarkation process like, and what did you think of that?
I thought it went great. And so in my head, I like listened to so many of your podcasts where you talked about people who show up kind of like not super early. You like get there just either right at your time or even a little bit later and you just walk on. So that's really what I was going for. It's hard for me to like be casual about something. So we still left our hotel at like 12:50. And so therefore we got to the port at like 1:05. So we got there, my luggage was already tagged. We gave it to the porter. I had a tip ready for them because I was like, gotta have tips for all the people. That was easy. And then they like corralled us into the like 1:30 group. But then by 1:15, we like walked. So we only stood around for maybe like 10 minutes or so. And then we walked right in. And there was, of course, a line that you then enter. But I thought it was really smooth and well organized. And like the second you're through those doors, they have like pretty murals on the walls and music playing. And like everybody starts being really sweet and friendly to you, like greeting you and things like that. And then there's a whole bunch of people just checking people in at the terminal. And we had all of our documentation there. And I thought that went super smooth.
Well, that goes smooth, and it is time to walk the gangway and board the Disney Dream for the first time. What was that like?
It was great. We boarded, they called our name. It was really special. Like, it's a beautiful ship to walk into. And I immediately was like, I'm overwhelmed because you're kind of looking around and you're just like, oh my goodness, there's like just a lot of people. One observation I had is that the ship felt the most crowded that first day. You know what I mean? It just feels like you immediately are like, these are the things I want to do. And there's just a lot of people looking and moving around. We did know actually before we went on the ship, the person who checked us in at the terminal, they told us our room would be ready. They were like, your room will be ready. So you can go right to your room, which was nice. So we like first I had to ask, how do you find your room? So that was like, I found a person who was very helpful. And we got to our room, dropped off our things, and then we went over to Cabanas so that we could have some lunch.
Yeah, that is a typical embarkation day for sure. Unfortunately, when you first get on the ship, shops aren't open. There's not shows or entertainment to see. So you are really either eating or at the pool deck or exploring the ship. But everyone else is doing those same 3 activities. But you did mention that your stateroom was ready, which is another great benefit of showing up a little bit later, because if you carried on any alcohol, you can drop that right away. But what kind of stateroom did you book, and how did you feel like that worked for your family?
So we had the deluxe ocean view stateroom with veranda, category 05B. And I thought it worked fine. Like, we are a family of 4, and I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old. And my 13-year-old is human size. Like, she's like a person grown up. So she was in the bed, and I was listening to a previous episode where the person was like, where do the beds come from? And I was like, yeah, where do the beds come from? But my 9-year-old did great on the upper bunk, and my daughter did great on her bed. And it's very helpful how the room host kind of hides it all away for you. Spoiler alert, we did book a cruise with 2 rooms in the future. So that's a thing that for me, I would indulge in that in the future for myself to enjoy the cruise even more. But as far as like getting the job done, like, I felt it was great. Like, we had enough room for our luggage. And we also didn't spend a ton of time in our room either. And so we had the veranda, which was like this lovely kind of space to sit on as well.
Were you early or late dining?
We were late dining.
Well, we'll continue with embarkation day, and then from there we will move our way around the ship and discuss the various venues and dining. But you get settled, you go up and eat at Cabanas. What are you doing after that?
So we went up and we ate at Cabanas, which I was really delighted with. I feel like I had the one thing going into the cruise, I feel like I had the lowest expectation for the food. And I actually thought Cabanas was fine. Like, this beautiful space where you get to sit and see the ocean, and you could just have whatever food any person wants. There's a big thing with going on a cruise and being a parent, and that you don't have to meal plan for your family. It's like, that's great. That's vacation right there. So I think that's something that I really liked about Cabanas. But so, yes, we did Cabanas, and then we also did the deck party. So, and, we just kind of migrated up there, and it was super cute. Like, I think my kids really liked that. They liked all the shows and the music playing and kind of like the dancing atmosphere. Like, my daughter definitely found that soft serve machine, and she had a soft serve within 10 minutes of being on that deck. We explored, we met Mickey, which was great. Like, we got a nice picture with Mickey Mouse. I did buy the photo package, so I just wanted to make sure we got some like key characters and some key pictures of our family on the boat.
Awesome. Did you have a show that night then?
Yes. Okay, so we had the Golden Mickeys, and so I went to all the shows. My whole family didn't go to all the shows, but we had the Golden Mickeys, and it was cute. Like, it's dated. It is super dated.
Right.
But, my family enjoyed it. Both my daughters and my husband and myself, we all love musicals, and we love theater. Anytime people get up on stage and sing, we're just happy to be there and watch them. One thing I love people watching, which is like great for Disney, great for cruises. Some people get super dressed up for all the stuff. And that was like really interesting. Like, some people showed up to the Golden Mickeys, like literally looking like they're going to the Oscars. And I was like, cool. Like, that was just awesome for them. I was not that dressed up, but I thought that was a kind of a fun thing that I could see that some people were super into.
That is one nice thing about Disney Cruise Line is even on their formal night, there is really no expectations for anything. You really can come as you are within very loose reason, I would say. But you don't really need to be pressured to pack your fancy clothes unless you are eating at Palo or Remy. Otherwise, you can just relax and enjoy your trip.
Yeah, my husband is like all shorts all the time, and my kid too. They don't look forward to like our celebrity cruise coming up where they're going to have to wear pants to dinner. Neither of them want pants.
Well, you see the show, and then it should be just about time for your first rotational dining.
Yes. So we had Enchanted Garden the first night, and it was fine. So one thing being like our first time on a cruise, my husband and I, we both felt that the movement of the boat, thankfully, we never like felt sick or anything like that, but it is an interesting feeling. And we both described it as like an appetite suppressant, where we're just like, we're going to take it easy tonight with everything. I feel like I had a curry or a dal dish. And I just want to warn you guys, I didn't write down all the different meals that I had. But the meal was really tasty. I think the rotational dining, in my opinion, was maybe my least favorite food experience on the boat. But it also was fine, and my kids loved it. Like the fact that my 9-year-old every night would just get what she wanted. She would order a salad and order a mac and cheese and order a burger, which is kind of like ordering 2 entrees, but they made it work for her. And then my other daughter got to order whatever food she wanted. She's a total foodie, so that's very exciting for her. And one thing I did do with rotational dining is I would always just ask for all the appetizers. I was like, we're going to just always ask for all the appetizers, which was a treat. And our serving team they were great. They were super attentive, nice. I don't remember their name, but they were great.
Awesome. Well, why don't we go ahead and stick with dining then? What were your thoughts on the other 2 restaurants? And then were there any menus out of this that stuck out to you or were a highlight?
So we did Enchanted Garden the first night, and then 2 nights in a row of Royal Palace, including a pirate night at Royal Palace. And I actually thought that menu was fine. I was listening back to your guys' previous episodes, and I didn't realize how down you guys are on the pirate night menu, but I was like, oh, this is fun. I think it's also, I live in the Midwest, so like a seafood forward menu is like, oh, that's a treat. And then the final night was Animator's Palette, and I thought it was good. It was also like probably the night with the most movement, and we decided to leave dinner early, like right before dessert. And our waiter felt so bad. He like sent us back to our room with Mickey bars because he's like, you got to take some sweets.
Aw.
And I'm trying to think of any like particular meals. I thought it was good, but nothing really stuck out as far as like my favorite thing. The way I enjoyed cabanas or even like the deck food. I thought the deck food was really tasty.
What were your favorite things that you ate on deck?
So you know what? It's not so much. It's so they have the pizzas and they have the chicken fingers and the fries. And I feel so silly saying this because so many people talk about these chicken fingers on the cruise line, but they're hot and they're fresh. I think that's it. Like it's the fact that like when you're in rotational dining, it's all fine, but nothing's really like piping hot by the time it gets to your table.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that was my experience. And it was tasty and like, I wasn't suffering. But like when you're on deck and you're sitting there and you're like, you got out of the pool and you want to take a rest for a minute and your 9-year-old can go get you some chicken fingers and fries and bring them to you. And they're hot. It's just amazing. And then I thought their pizzas were very good. I was pleasantly surprised. Like they even had pizza with like arugula on it, which I love, or like different cheeses. And I was like, this is delicious. They also have the like taco bar, which I got once. I thought that one was just fine. I do love tacos and burrito bowls and all that, but it probably wasn't my favorite. And then another thing my husband and I would do would be like get our food and then we just like sneak around the corner to the adult section. And I don't know if it's because we were on a spring break cruise, but I always felt like the adult section was kind of dead, which was great. And we would just sit and it was like suddenly quiet. And we would just sit and have a quick little lunch together. And then we'd bring our plates and stuff back, join the family, doing what other silly stuff they were doing.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that too. And there is nothing wrong with consuming as many chicken tendies as you want because I will eat them every day.
Yeah.
There's just something great about the hot sun and then some nice salty fries and some chicken tenders. Also, absolutely. I like that pirate night take because, we don't talk about having pirate night for the first time all the time.
Right.
Pirate night is like this consistent that no matter what ship you're on, you have this menu that has continued to be the same. And I love to hear that from a first-time cruiser, it is a solid menu. It is very much enjoyable. It just really gets hated on from the frequent cruisers and the multitude of platinum and gold cruisers. So I love that.
Yeah.
Well, sticking with on the ship, let's talk about how you filled your days. You had a full sea day, you have your embarkation day, and also many nights aboard the Dream. How did you fill your time aboard the ship? What activities did you get up to? What did you enjoy the most? And was there anything you did that like surprised you?
When we got on the boat, you go on your navigator app and I immediately started to like heart all the things that I was interested in. And I pointed out to my husband and to my daughter, my 13-year-old, we all have phones. We also brought a small iPad on and we downloaded the navigator app and we told my 9-year-old, we're like, this is your app for the week. And we want you to look and see what you want to do. We also communicated with each other a ton on the Navigator app. It worked really slick for us. I didn't purchase any internet and traveling to our locations, it really wasn't an issue. Like I have US Cellular. I don't know if that matters, but like we were always able to like text when we were on an island with our phone. And then on the boat, we were easily able to communicate with each other, which like worked out perfectly for us. As far as like on the boat, my daughters went to a drawing class where they learned to draw Pluto, and they loved that. They thought it was a hoot. My daughter, my 13-year-old, and I went to one of the cooking classes to learn to make apple strudel, and it was fine. It was one of those things where they passed. We really did it for the apple strudel, like to get a little treat in the middle of the day. Not that there's not treats available elsewhere on the boat. One of the things that I did on my sea day, which was actually like one of my favorite things that I did on the boat, is I did the art of the theme show tour. Now, have you guys done that? Okay.
It's so good. Since you're a first time report, tell the listeners what it is and then what your favorite thing you learned was.
Okay, let me just say they are not clear enough in the Navigator app about what this tour is, because I thought it was going to be about theme shows. I was so confused, but it was a tour of the boat and I was like, okay. And it was adults only and it's free. And so I told my husband, and so he took the girls to see Snow White in the movie theater, which was a treat because it's like a brand new movie came out. So he took the girls to see the movie. And so I went up to the Meridian Bar, and I just want to say, me and all the grandmas and grandpas on the boat, all hanging out at the bar. And what it is a tour designed by the Imagineers about the building of the ship, the architecture of the ship, and also the art chosen in the ship and why it's put around the different places. And one thing that I noticed when I got on the boat is like, I really enjoyed seeing the art, which a lot of it is prints. It's not necessarily originals, but I love seeing the prints. I love seeing concept art. The concept art that I saw the most was Alice in Wonderland, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. And I just think that's just really cool to look at. And so the other thing I learned about from the cast member giving the tour, and he was great. And the thing is, I saw this cast member before during the week, and it was like normal interactions. You're like, excuse me, where's this? They would tell me, and nothing really clicked, but it was perfectly fine. He's doing a great job with his job. But he hosted this tour. And this man, like his face lit up and it's like he was so excited to give the tour. Like you could tell he felt very passionate about this. And I thought that was just so cool. He also set the ground rules kind of like right away. Like, I don't want you to expect to see things behind the scenes. He's like, this is not a behind the scenes tour of the ship. And I was like, great, I don't need that. I would love it, but I don't need that. But essentially, he took us around first to Aloe and is it Remy, which was great because I didn't experience those things. And so I was like delighted to get to see them. And they talked about like all the different choices of like the fixtures and carpeting and how they made the room more appropriate for like this fine dining experience. They showed us all like the different types of wine and some very special, very expensive bottles that are on the ship currently and like little stories about them. They talked about the theming throughout the ship. He also talked about in the stairwell how at different areas of the ship, they would choose different pieces of art depending on like what is going to be happening next when you go up. So for example, I want to say if you go from the adult section up to the kids section, they have Peter Pan because that's like you're becoming a kid again by traveling up the stairs. And then he took us into the main lobby area and he showed us some hidden Mickeys. And it was about an hour long. And I told him afterwards, I was like, this could have been hours. Like if you want to just walk me around the ship and show me everything, I would love that. And he did tell me that depending on the person, like every tour is a little different. And so like in the future, I think what I would do is I would just start going to all of them and just see what I could learn because I thought all that stuff was super fascinating and I loved it. And I love walking around like learning. I'm a real nerd. I need to walk around like learning things. I thought that was great.
Yeah, we have not talked about the art of the theme show tour in quite a while, and it is great. Again, it can be a little bit different every time. The art of the theme show is magic, wonder, dream, and fantasy. The Triton class ships have their own version. It's called something different, and forgive me, I don't remember what they call it. But all of the ships have something like that where they talk about the theming, the building of the ship, the architecture, and they are all fantastic.
Yeah, isn't this refreshing? Like, isn't this fun? We're getting
this is great.
Having new blood to share with. This is a fun episode.
And it was like, here's the thing, that was on my sea day. So that's like, I had real emotions this whole trip because, I'm the family planner as far as like vacations and I stress myself out and I overplan. And then on day 5, it's like, I figured it out and I unlocked it for myself. And I need a tour with all the grannies and grandpas. And there might not have all been grannies and grandpas, but it really was like the senior crowd. And I was delighted to hang out with them and just learn about. And also they took us to all the bars. And that was really cool to see as well. So yeah, it was awesome. And also the way like being in an adult group with he talked about like the new carpeting everywhere and how like some things were great ideas, but he also told us about like little mistakes of like, oh, they did this, but they realized it didn't work and then they had to undo it. But we still have this feature here.
Any other activities around the ship you would like to discuss?
This is not an exciting thing, but I did use the laundry room once and it was super easy peasy. So for the parents out there that need a laundry room, it worked great. All I did was I wanted to clean my cold weather clothes for going back home. And that worked out super easy. It works out great with the Navigator app because it tells you when your laundry's done and you can just do it. And it's probably the simplest vacation laundry you can do on a cruise. I was very pleased with how simple that was. Also, and I also want to give a shout out. Okay, so I listened to a recent episode with Christy and Nova and Lake and you guys all together and Amber talking about the different boats. And one thing that I believe it was Amber brought up was public bathrooms. And you guys talked about elevators. And to me, she was speaking to me at that moment. And I just want to compliment the Dream. It was beautiful. It had a dry dock. I just thought everything looked gorgeous. And every public bathroom, like me and my girls actually really loved going into the different bathrooms because they're beautifully themed with whatever section of the boat they're in. And they looked perfect. There was either someone actively cleaning it or it just looked unused, which was lovely. And like the elevators and everything looked great. And I just really appreciate that as far as feeling on vacation and just knowing that you're being taken care of. And it was great. And I was so glad that Amber brought that up because I was like, that's a wonderful point to think of.
A little fun fact about the Dream and ship cleanliness is similar to any restaurant or any public venue. There is health agencies that come and inspect these. The Dream is one of the highest rated ships for cleanliness like ever. And I don't know if it's still true, but for a very long time, it had a perfect score for many, many, many years.
I also like loved how at Cabanas, you get up to level 11 and they have like this really beautiful hand washing station and like the kindest cast members who are just like, and let me just say, I did see people walk right by those hand washing stations all the time, but the cast members are like, please wash your hands before you come in. Please wash your hands. Hand washing right here. And also when your kid goes into the Oceaneers Club, they're like, okay, we wash hands first. And I loved all that. I was here for all of it. Good job, Dream. I'm so proud.
Yeah, I knew I liked you, Anna.
Let's go ahead and turn towards entertainment. We already discussed seeing Golden Mickeys. Did you get to see the other shows on board?
Yes. Okay. So back to the Golden Mickeys. They did have to stop. At one point, there was a technical difficulties. Something happened, which is very strange. Because all of a sudden, everybody's face goes very serious and they walk calmly off the stage. And it was like 5 minutes or maybe less. And then they came back and finished. And that's the only time that happened. But I wanted to mention that happened. And it was interesting. The other shows we saw were a magician. And my children were delighted. They thought this guy was great. And I believe he also did like a class or something. And we missed out on that. But my kids really were kind of interested in seeing more magician content. The other show we saw was Belief. And so that one was one where my husband and my 13-year-old were kind of tired. But last minute, I told my 9-year-old, I was like, let's just go down and check it out. And so we went and watched it together. You know, I thought they did a great job. I was totally into it. My daughter, my 9-year-old, loved all the music. She's really she's into Disney music and movies and things like that. So that was great. And yes, I got a little misty-eyed. I had the feels at the end. I hugged my little 9-year-old tight watching Believe. So I thought it was great too. I was happy to like have that moment with her.
And then you felt a little guilty about having to tell her no, you couldn't play with her at that moment because you had to do some sort of chore in your life. Darn it, Disney.
I know, right? That is such an old school.
So Beauty and the Beast, did you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I was like, we didn't talk about the headliner yet.
No. Absolutely. So that was on the last day. That was on the C day. And one thing that my wait staff was great about is the day before whatever the next activity, they would always give us like a little tip, like do this or do that. The day before the Beauty and the Beast show, we realized there's 3 showings, a 1 p.m., like 5 o'clock dinner hour one, and then the later hour one. And so I asked the tour guide of the theme show tour, and I asked him which one he recommended. And I said, would it be okay to go to the 1 p.m. one? Do you think that's going to be really crowded? And he was like, no, I actually think that's great. You're going to get a lot of kids. And I'm like, that's fine. I got kids too. And so we went to the earlier show because it was the C day. And I kind of wanted to go into the day before leaving, not being at a show.
Right.
And it was wonderful. Like we really enjoyed it. So with my kiddos going on a cruise, it was super important to like prep them. Like my 13-year-old was quickly on board of like, yes, I will go on a cruise and order room service. Awesome. But my 9-year-old was super nervous about it. Like, what's this big ship? And we're going to sail into the ocean. Also, this idea of like, the movies and the shows, she actually wasn't super familiar with them. And so my homework with her was watching Finding Nemo, Beauty and the Beast, the Wish documentary. Like, God bless that Wish documentary. Like, we watched like 20 times, and that really helped a lot for her to get excited about going on a cruise. So we watched Beauty and the Beast beforehand. So we all had like a base knowledge, and it was great. And the thing is, like, it does seem elevated from both Believe and the Golden Mickeys. Like, it really seems like, oh,
100%.
everybody is like bringing their A game. I thought the singers were wonderful. Like, yeah, it was great. My kids loved it. We had like second row seats. We got there real early. We're so excited to see it. Got our popcorn bucket. Just, it was wonderful. Another thing that I loved about Beauty and the Beast, if you like theater, they do all the things that make theater shows interesting. And what I mean by that is like the screen has this wonderful way of moving with the character. And then also the elements on the stage, which are just like props, but they make it look like Beauty is running up a field and singing, or she's trying to climb up the castle to get to the attic. And they did an amazing job with that. And I really loved it.
Once again, love all of that. Is there anything else that you got up to around the ship before we move on to your port stop?
Yeah. Did you do any like game shows as a family or?
No, we didn't. So a couple things around the ship. So one, I did go over to the Oceaneers Club and I wanted to do an open house and I just would always miss it. And finally, like I did register my 9-year-old and I like made her go in. I was like, you got to do it. They have cool stuff in there. And so I made her go in and I sat like in one of those little windows and I like gave her the thumbs up. And I think she spent maybe 15 minutes in there. And I could see at one point a cast member came over and like invited her to do something. And she came out with a smile on her face and a piece of art. And she was excited to tell me about it. I was like, do you want to go back? And she's like, no. Because truly, my child, my 9-year-old's favorite thing in the whole wide world is funnel vision. She's a funnel vision kid. Hopefully in the future, she'll want to go back to the club because, or at least I want to go to the open house and see them.
They have movies in there. So you
In
have
the
to try
clubs too?
Yes. You have to try to get her to watch the movie in the club. And it's funny. And I know that they play them all the time or most of the time on a screen somewhere. Because there would be certain movies and my son would say he watched it and we're like, when? Watch it at camp? And he's like, no, on a Disney cruise in the club.
Yeah. I think she totally would be into that. And I just feel like we missed the open house. And then like my husband took my daughter to the Vibe. And it was just like, it didn't quite hit at the right time. They're so delicate at this age of like what they'll accept and not accept. But as far as like things around the ship, funnel vision, and when people have described funnel vision in the past, I've always been like, what's so great about funnel vision? No, it's great. It's great. You sit in a deck chair in your bathing suit and you watch a movie and the sound is good. The screen looks really good. My child would sit in the kid soup the whole time.
Yeah.
Just all these little children's heads just bobbing up and down. And she was living her best life. And she would get out of the kid soup and she would get chicken fingers and then she would get soft serve and then she would get back in the soup. And she was just happy as a clam. And I loved it. I loved it for her.
And did your 13-year-old spend time in the pool as well?
A little bit. She definitely. So what I want to suggest for Edge and Vibe is I want them to make an activity where the kids just show up and read books, like in like moody little like spots for them to just read books. Because like I saw so my observations around the ship were I saw lots of teen girls, kind of like my daughter, who was like she'd sit there and like read her book on the deck. Great. That sounds like an awesome vacation. But I would see other girls doing it. And I'd be like, oh, I wish they could all get together and like connect that way. And then there's plenty of times where I'd be with my husband and you'd see like roving bands of youths walking around the ship. And it was like truly all age groups, like definitely some older teens like hanging out together. And they'd be hanging out in like cabanas when it was empty, just to have like that space to be together. So there's definitely like youths connecting, having a great time on the ship. I also, during the pirate night, there was like the little flash mob dance group. And I was like, I saw my 13-year-old. I was like, that's pretty cute. Like, we really enjoyed watching the kids do the dance in the middle of the pirate night. So that was like super cute. I could see my kids participating in that in the future. Yeah.
Try to get them in the first night.
That's my goals for the future. My husband and I talked about that. But once again, that first day just feels like so much.
Yeah.
So,
And you
and
want
also,
them to enjoy their vacation too.
yes. Yeah. And also, like, nobody was sad either. Like, they just,
Right.
it's almost like you want them to enjoy everything. So, the last day, I hadn't been on the aqueduct yet. And I was like, I want to do this. And so I did my theme show tour. We watched a movie. We had lunch at Cabanas. But I'm like, I'm putting on my swimsuit and I'm going up there. But it was too windy. And I was so sad. I know. And so we sat there with the funnel vision, eating our like chicken fingers and fries. And I was like, I'm just going to sit here in my bathing suit all day. And eventually, like, it was so windy, I got a hoodie to put on. But around like 4:30 or so, the wind started to die down. And I like looked up and I saw the water going in the aqueduct and I was so excited. And I remember I went up to my 9-year-old. I was like, the aqueduct is open. Let's go. And she's like, I'm watching Funnel Vision right now. So then I turned to my husband and he's like, let's do it. And so me and him run up like 2 kids and it's of course empty because like it's been, down for most of the day. And we hop right on it. And I don't think I understood that it was like a fast ride. I feel very silly, but like the fact that it went, you know what I mean? And it goes around curves and it goes pretty fast.
Is it fast?
It felt a little fast. Like I don't go on, I don't go on rides. It's been a minute.
Well, and see, I don't think I've ever been on it because I don't love water rides.
It's definitely like
it has little dips.
Yeah,
or whatever.
And I shouldn't do this on a podcast, but I'm doing the little wavy motion with my hands right now. But it was delightful. And so rules for the aqueduct for me. The first time it's cold. The second time doesn't feel as cold. Like if you go right away afterwards, it's not as cold the second time. So do it 2 times.
You're already used to it.
Yes, exactly. Also, I will only accept the aqueduct in the late afternoon when I go straight on it. I don't want to wait in lines or anything like that.
No 45-minute line for you.
No, I'm spoiled. This is how I accept it. And it's just me and like, I don't know, like 4 other little kiddos that were like, we're all just doing the loops constantly. And so I did the aqueduct and I hung out for a little bit. And then I went back to the room where my 13-year-old was like eating room service. And I get back and I'm like ready to kind of take it easy. And I look at her and I go, hey, the aqueduct, it's open now. And she looks at me and she's like, it's open now. And I was like, and this is one of those moments I was like, do you want to ride the aqueduct with me? And she was like, yeah. And so we went back. And so I went right back and I did it with her a few times. And then she did that with her dad. So it was like a wonderful 5:30 on the deck experience with my family of just like watching the movie, running over to the aqueduct, eating French fries. Because the last day we decided that we weren't going to do any rotational dining. We're just going to have deck food for dinner. And it just was great. And I was like, I need to somehow repeat this more often when I go on a cruise.
Again, love all of that. And love that you all got to ride the aqueduct and all enjoyed it and got to do it as many times as you pleased. Yeah, especially once you hit that first rotational dining and a lot of the families are up and at their dinner. It'd be a great time to get on it too.
I've heard that tip and I feel like it's a great one. And also the 9-year-old, eventually she did go on the aqueduct too.
Okay.
We got her out of the soup.
Well, we've talked quite a bit about the dream, but we also have 3 port stops to discuss. And first up is Nassau. Did you do anything in Nassau?
Blake, it makes me so happy to tell you that, yes, I did do something in Nassau. And I'm so happy to tell you that.
I am so excited to hear that.
We have to know what you did.
It's so not that exciting, but
it is exciting.
Thanks, guys. So when we made our plans to go on this cruise and we knew we were going to go to Nassau, I really wanted to do something where we would get to see Nassau, like just kind of walk around. And I kept looking at a Google map and seeing like, okay, well, there's a museum here and here's this here. And like, can you walk here? And what's walking there going to feel like? And people would talk about how there's a lot of like people are trying to sell things or get you to get on a taxi and there's like restaurants that aren't super pretty or anything like that. And I couldn't figure out like what was going to work for me and my family. I went on TripAdvisor and I booked a walking tour. I booked a historical and cultural walking tour. And it's this woman and she has a tour group and it's called Kind Walk. And I think it's just herself. And her name's Krista and she gives tours of Nassau. And so our tour, I want to say was at 1 or 2, like it was in the afternoon. And so in the morning, we did our royal gathering. We had lunch at Cabanas. And then I was like, we are getting off the boat and we're going to walk over to the Pirate Museum and we're going to do a walking tour of Nassau. And my kids were like, Mom. And I was like, no, we're doing this. And so we got off the boat, and I have an app where it's like you can download the maps. So but I had no problem with my internet access. And we walked over to the Pirate Museum. And one thing I checked before I booked this tour is I made sure that all the places we were going to were all just walkable to the port. So at no point would I worry about like physically getting back to the port, because that's something that absolutely would make me nervous. And so we walked over to the Pirate Museum and we met with Krista. And Krista does 2 tours a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. They're scheduled for about 3 hours. Ours was less than that, probably more around 2 hours. And she talks to you about the history of the Bahamas. She talks to you about the different locations around. And on the tour, there was 3 other people with us. So there's other people on the tour as well. There was a gentleman from Germany on vacation. And there was a couple visiting. She was from South America and he was from California. And it was a really nice little group. And Krista was like, "Where are you guys from?" And we're like, "Oh, we came from the Disney Dream." And this blew her mind. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever gotten anyone from a Disney cruise before." She's like, "I'm so excited." And I was like, "Cool, here we are. We're ready to learn." This is a good tour for people who like learning things. So lots of facts, lots of like, let me tell you about the flag. Let me tell you about these plants. Let me tell you about the public fruit that you can take. Like, here are some trees, and you go as a person who lives here and you get the fruit and you get to have it because it's on a public tree. She talked about the colors of the buildings and how like a government building will have one color and a school or a hospital or a police station will have another color. She talked about the Queen's Staircase. She took us over to there. The Queen's Staircase was actually closed the day that we went over, but she like kind of snuck us around so we could take a look at it. She also took us to the Supreme Court. She showed us lots of like beautiful statues and like told us all about them. She had a vendor that she took us to where you could purchase like a coconut to drink out of. So like that was like a fun thing that I was like delighted to do. But really what I enjoy is just like walking around a city. I just enjoy walking around a city. Definitely you want to wear your sneakers. You are not always on sidewalk. Like, so sometimes it's on uneven road, but we just got to walk all over Nassau and it was nice because she would like smile and wave to people and chit chat with people as we were going around. I understand what is off-putting about when you first off the boat because it's so touristy. And it's sometimes kind of feels aggressive about people wanting to sell you things. But I have to say, like, I truly never felt unsafe. Like, I never felt unsafe. There's a billion other tourists just like you walking around. And it's just people doing their job, trying to sell things. Just a little bit of walk past that area where like Krista walked us around is just more like neighborhood where they're like homes. And it is poor, but it felt totally comfortable and safe to walk around. And it was just so nice to just like walk around and see a place that's different from where you come from. She also took us to like the chocolate factory and a place to sample some wine and then also a rum store. And so like, I don't think none of the people on the tour, none of us were really interested in buying those things. We all had samples. So I think that's one reason why it was a little bit shorter. But to me, if you like learning things, if you like walking around a city, it's great. And like Krista talks to you the entire time. And so she'll ask you questions and ask you what you think about something. And so if that makes you uncomfortable, then it might not be the tour for you. But I love how she engaged like with my kids and my family and talked about like how things are different in the Bahamas, being like what it means to her about their history in the Bahamas of slavery. And all these things I did not know. I was completely ignorant and Krista taught me. And I super appreciate that she did that. Krista runs the tour by you book on TripAdvisor, and it was like $30 for my family to book, but she's only paid by what you tip her. So like that's another thing to keep in mind is like I knew that I'd be tipping her at the end because what we used to book on TripAdvisor was not something that she's going to make any money from.
Interesting.
TripAdvisor.
And also like, but I do think that's like her philosophy with how she wants to run her tour is something where people will pay her at the end, which like, I agree. I'm like, oh, that would stress me out. But like, she was very passionate about sharing Bahamian culture with us and teaching us history. And I really liked it a lot. And I know it's probably not for everyone, but if you want to just like walk around Nassau and learn some stuff, it was great.
Amazing.
I don't think we've ever had someone come and just be like, yeah, we toured Nassau.
Right? With like a actual real walking tour.
It was great. Once again, walking around the city is my idea. This is why like what I've learned with this cruise experience is like, I actually don't think I'm a big cruise person, but people that I live with that I love so much. I think they really like cruising. And I am just discovering ways to learn how to relax and have fun.
Aw.
While we're talking about doing interesting things in Nassau, I am just going to plug episode 341 of the podcast is called There's a Lot to Do in Nassau and Ensenada. And I believe Christy and Steve go through a couple of different things that they've done. I know Steve's done a lot of pretty cool things in Nassau. So again, that was that is also true. I just edited his snippets from Ensenada this past week.
Also on that walking tour, my 9-year-old definitely got tired after an hour. And so my husband just walked her back to the boat. It was like literally we could just see it. And so they just walked back to the boat and I made my 13-year-old stay and she was grumpy. But later on, she was like, Mom, thank you so much for making me stay. I really enjoyed that. Yes.
Oh, that's good to know too.
Yeah, I am just like, love that you got off. You did something very culturally and cool in Nassau. Like, I am all here for it.
Yeah, right on.
But then we are going to re-enter the Disney bubble because you get to visit not one, but both of Disney's private island experiences. And it looks like you stop at Castaway first.
Yes. Let me just say, I feel like such a privileged person to now have opinions about Castaway and Lookout. You know, I've been listening to this podcast for so long and everyone has opinions about these two places. And I'm like, after the 2 days, I'm like, I now have my opinion. But anyway, yes, my first day was Castaway and it was great. We got off the boat pretty early. There's that sort of like, you got to get off the boat and you got to go get your seat and you got to do this and you got to do that. And we definitely felt that on Castaway Day. Our waiters told us to grab as many towels as possible when you get off the boat. He's like, everybody grabs 3 towels. And I was like, yes, sir. So we got off the boat, grabbed our 3 towels. We got on the tram and I immediately forgot, like, what stop am I supposed to get off of? I like immediately panicked. And I think I got off too soon because then we walked for a really long time. But we found seats and it was lovely. And I did the 5K. I did my 2.87 mile 5K because that's what my watch told me. But I followed the directions of the man who like hands out the medals. And so here's the thing. You guys, Lake and Christy, you guys are such inspiration for me for running. And I really enjoy all the running content that you guys will sometimes have on this podcast or if I see you on social media. I love it. It's awesome. Thank you. And so I do a little bit of running and I had been running a little bit here in Wisconsin. And one advantage of running in Wisconsin is that I'm used to running on hills. So when I go down south to Florida or the Bahamas, it's so flat. I feel like I can run forever. The disadvantage is that like my latest runs have been in like 40-degree weather.
Yeah.
And that feels great. Let me just say like 20 and 30 is rough. 40 and sunny feels like just awesome. And so I saw that it was going to be 74 degrees and sunny. And I was like, 74 is not that bad. Like, that's great. I can do that. And I did. And I think I overdid it. And that's like the one thing I think I immediately regret is that people talk about not hydrating enough on a cruise or not drinking enough water on Castaway. And I did that. So this is my warning to anybody who is excited about doing the 5K. It's lovely. It's not necessarily accurate, like as far as the distance, but you did it in spirit you still did it and drink lots of water. Cause I got back to my chair and I immediately was just like, I felt a little bit of a tingle of a headache. And so I really tried to drink a lot of water, but I felt like I was like chasing that all day, trying to get it to like go away.
Yeah. It's very flat, but the heat and humidity will absolutely try to murder you.
Yeah. And there is water on the course, so make sure you get it. And honestly, I prefer to just bring my own bottle and just refill it too on the course. And you're doing a 3-mile run, so you're like, or whatever you're doing, even if it's a walk. Do I really need water for a 3-mile workout? Yes. Yes, you do. And it's probably 80% humidity. So drink your fluids because you're sweating a lot.
I actually have like one of those water bottles that you hook onto your hand I love so much. And I should have refilled it at some point or just taken more walk breaks or something like that. So I did my 5K. I was so proud of myself. I sat on the chair for a while and this is the day that we did like rent all the snorkel stuff. So while I was running, my husband was going ahead and getting all the snorkel equipment. So I saw them, like I spied them down on the beach and snorkeling is like my husband's happiest is when I see him with like snorkel gear on. So it like made me so delighted. And the kids like loved it. And it's such a easy place to snorkel. It's so easy. There's no waves. It's like you can stand in it for so long and you could still see fish and stuff. And so they were having a great time that morning. Yes.
Did the kids make it all the way back to where the stuff was?
Not the 9-year-old. I went and participated in snorkeling in the afternoon and I did rent 4 sets of things. And I was like, I might not go because I am scared of snorkeling. And I know that sounds like so silly, but I am because I'm just like, you have the goggles on and you're like, something could come and get me. A fish might nibble my toes or something. I don't know. It weirds me out. But my 9-year-old was like, please, mom, snorkel with me. And I was like, okay. So we all head out and we put on like the vests and the shoes and all the stuff. And I'm like gripping my 9-year-old's hand. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing it with it. Because I told her, I was like, I'm scared right now, but I'm going to do it. And every time I saw a fish, I would have a little freak out, but then I was fine. And so we made it a good like distance. We made it to the shipwreck. You know what I mean? We made it to the shipwreck, maybe a little bit past the shipwreck. But then my husband and my 13-year-old were like, we're going to keep going. And my 9-year-old's like, can we go back? And I was like, yes. So then we headed back together. And it was, once again, this is the safest place for me to ever snorkel. And I was like, I'm going to do it. But it's not my personal favorite thing to do.
So Anna's not scuba diving anytime soon.
Oh, fish could come at you from any direction. I'm just like, I'm out of the element when I am in the water.
Did you eat lunch on the island?
We sure did. We thought it was great. We went to Cookies too, and we had no rhyme or reason. It's just that's what we found. And we really enjoyed it. My husband really liked the barbecue. It was definitely bustling, but we had no problem finding a seat. And then my daughters discovered that they saw other kids taking cups and putting the soft serve in the cups, and they were so excited. But yeah, we had lunch on the island. It was really tasty. We love the cookies. Apparently that's a thing. And I was like, yeah, this is really kind of tasty. And I put a little soft serve in it. And I was like, awesome. My husband and daughter also, and me too, he got one for me, a drink in the shape of a coconut, a plastic coconut. And you get a beverage that you pay for. I don't know how much they paid for it, but they brought it to me because that's what I told them. And it was like a non-alcoholic pina colada, something like that. And it was very tasty. I only took one coconut home. I was like, I'm not packing both of these coconuts to go home. I'm just taking one of them. And now that coconut is at my 13-year-old. Next to her bed is a little coconut, and I love it. Drinks her water out of that.
So you should take him too.
Well, the other one, my 9-year-old has a giant crush turtle. It's huge.
Nice.
The footprint of that is so not practical.
No, it isn't. I don't know. Somehow, I think my kid may have been 5. Somehow that crush came home with us once. And I was still angry at that waiter who brought it over to our table to try to sell it to my child. And I was like, look at this. All these years later, still bitter about that.
And the thing is, I saw one kid with this cute light up mug. I wanted the light up mug because it's a normal
Pirate Night. That's the Pirate Night mug. Also own one of those. I don't even pay for extra for stuff. I don't even like extra mugs. And yet we have all of these mugs in my house.
Just for the parents out there who are listening, Pirate Night's the night to maybe splurge on, if you're going to buy a mug, it's normal mug shaped. So when you're packing it, you're not like, this is insane. Trying to get this turtle in my suitcase.
Did you get up to anything else in Castaway?
So on Castaway, my husband and my 9-year-old did go for a bike ride and they loved it. And know that, Lake, you've expressed that you like the bikes. And Christy, you have expressed that you don't like the bikes. We are Team Lake here. We are pro bike. And so I didn't actually go on it. So I don't know the quality, but he said it was delightful. So I was very happy that they did that together. And when we got back from Castaway, the one thing is we were so pooped. We were just exhausted. We spent a lot of time. We definitely went back to the beach after lunch. That's when we actually did our snorkeling with the kids. And so we got to a point where I was like, I actually head back to the boat first. My husband and the girls wanted to swim a little longer. And so I went back first kind of by myself because I was just like, okay, I think I can't stop the headache now. So I got to go take it easy. And thankfully that was super efficient getting back to the boat. Getting on and off the boat was way easier than I anticipated. The one thing I regret is I wish I hopped on those slides, the Pelican Plunge. I think I would have liked that considering how much I enjoyed the aqueduct. I think I would have liked that too, but I never made that happen for myself. So it was one thing next time I'm going to get on the Pelican Plunge.
I couldn't tell you how many cruises it was until I got on Pelican Plunge. And I only got on it because Steve and Wake of all people were like, let's go do the slide.
Right? I remember that.
Yeah.
Who else didn't say all right though? I didn't say all right. No slides.
Well, you have one more amazing island to visit here. Let's talk about Lookout.
So Lookout. So going into the next day, we had this whole long beach day at Castaway and we were all exhausted. And so we were like the night before, you know what? We're going to take it easy. We're going to wake up. We're going to go to Cabanas. We're going to eat our breakfast. It's going to be great. Then we'll mosey over to the island. Anyway, so we wake up and we open the blinds and we see this, the massive walkway, gorgeous blue skies. And it's my beach loving husband was activated. And he like looks at me. He's like, I think I should go over and get a spot right away. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great, babe. And he's like, I'm just going to get dressed. I'm going to pack a bag. I'm going to have some block and I'm just going to go over and then I'll text you guys where I'm at. And I was like, cool, you do that, like activated. And so he like left right away. And I was like, okay, girls, let's go get ready and go to Cabanas. And I was like sitting at Cabanas and he sends me a message. He's like, I got a great spot on the island. It's gorgeous. And I was like, texted back like, okay, we just sat down at Cabanas. And so we had our Cabanas breakfast, which is delicious. Like I thought Cabanas breakfast was great. Like I like, once again, somebody providing food for my family vacation.
I love Cabana's breakfast, honestly,
Yeah.
myself too. It's
Yeah, it was
just
great.
easy and you have choices and
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So then me and my kids, we dropped off our stuff in the room and we went over to Lookout. And so a couple observations, lots of people being taken back and forth with the golf carts. Looked like that was really smooth. They have all the little red wagons lined up for people to use who need them. We walked down the pier. That's, we're 3 able-bodied people. We're totally fine walking down the pier. And, we'd watched the documentary about Lookout that was on Disney Plus. So they were really excited because we had learned about the coral that they had placed around this area. And we got to the tram station, which, I don't know if you guys have been there since other episodes, but like definitely looks great. Like things are paved. It was very clear where we should stand. It actually wasn't very crowded. So like we just hopped on the tram. The trams are all shiny and new. So that was really clear. And then we went over to Lookout and I didn't understand where my husband was. So I'm like walking up and down the beach. But eventually he told me what bar to look for and he was in front of that. And so we walked. And so if you're at Lookout, essentially he took a right and headed down towards that cliff area where it's like there's the last lifeguard and then he just went a little bit more. And then we were above the beach, like above the dune, but where the dune kind of flattened out so we could still see the dune from our seat. It was truly like one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever been to. It was gorgeous. And this was the moment on the cruise where I sat down and I was like, oh, I got to come back. I got to this can't be my last time ever being in this place because this is so gorgeous. And I love that when you go on vacation and you're someplace and you're like, oh, I got to do this again. And I'm a big like Rick Steves nerd. Do you guys know who that is?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And he talks a lot about how you got to just tell yourself you're going to come back one day. And so immediately I was like, I've got to come back here. I think there's also one thing with my like activated husband who was just like, I saw a stingray. Like he was so excited. It's like a beach. It's a real beach with waves and coral and sea life and stuff. And like, that's just really cool to see. The water was like really warm. It was beautiful. The sand was beautiful. And then behind you was like, there's the bathrooms. There's the volleyball thing. Here's a shaded area for kids that can like play games. And it was just so gorgeous. And at one point, we did go over and see the Junkanoo parade, like just my husband and me. I couldn't get the kids were so exhausted. They were like sitting on the chairs. I thought I'll just leave them. And I thought that was great. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I loved all the outfits. I loved all the dancing. A few regrets. One is that I didn't participate in any of the cultural things. And, that's just for next time. And then I wasn't up for doing any of the nature tours or like, we didn't sign up for a nature tour, but I didn't like explore more. And that was more of me making a poor choice on like what shoes to bring. I had Crocs and I wish I had Tevas. You know what I mean? Like I wish I had like a hiking sandal because I really would have felt more comfortable walking around the island if I had something like that.
No, it's good feedback.
What did you think of the food on the island?
That was great. I loved it. Here's the thing. I don't think I'm super picky with food. And so when we were all hungry, we headed over to like the lunch area and it definitely was crowded. So lots of lines, lots of waiting. The seating area was very nice and shaded, all the big fans going. We didn't have any issues with flies or anything like that. And so my kid, I want to say they got in line for maybe barbecue or something, but it was like a long line. So I, of course, just like picked the shortest line. So I was like, okay, that's the shortest one. That's when I'm going to get in. And that was in my line, spicy chicken sandwiches and chicken and seafood rice bowls. And I thought my food was delicious. And I got the spicy chicken sandwich. And I do love a Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich. And so therefore
that is a celiac casualty that I cannot have. And man, did I love that Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich.
Number 6 on the menu. I know it's It's great. And so I was delighted to have a spicy chicken sandwich. I also I just got all the food. So I filled my tray up. And so I went
Good
right
for you.
over to the rice areas and I got both of the rice bowls. They also had fried okra, which I really enjoyed. And any of the little salads, I got that as well. And so I thought all my food was great. My husband, I told him, I was like, here, I brought you all this food. It's our, you don't even have to wait in line. He's like, no, I'm going to go at the barbecue. And I was like, okay. So he really enjoyed the barbecue at Castaway and he was delighted to have barbecue again at Lookout. And my kids enjoyed their food too. Definitely felt like longer lines. And we didn't even bother going to the other location and seeing if the lines were shorter. We just stayed and it was great. Really enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed the Lookout food more than the Castaway food. I also enjoyed both. It's not like I was unhappy with either.
Did you do anything else at Lookout or pretty much just hanging and chilling under the sun?
We did walk down the beach to the Cliff Rocky area to the sign that says you're leaving Disney if you go beyond this point. And it was so gorgeous. There's definitely a nature trail that was right behind in the wooded area, but it was so gorgeous. It almost gives me campsite rule vibes where it's you want to just make sure this area is left as beautiful. I want Disney to do all the stuff. I want them to do all the stuff to protect this island and protect nature and also celebrate the heritage and culture there. I eat all that stuff up. I thought it was wonderful. I feel like it's such a wonderful thing to get to experience. It was great. And I absolutely would love to visit Lookout again one day.
Which of the two islands was your favorite then?
Okay. Absolutely Lookout. Absolutely. Hands down. And it's one of those things where I've listened back and Christy, the way you talk about Castaway, I just don't have the emotional attachment to Castaway the way some people do.
Sure.
I think also if you appreciate beach, if you're a beach person, then Lookout is just can't get much better than that.
You
because
really can't.
Yeah, Castaway doesn't have the waves and just that sort of my husband kept saying, he's like, I can hear the waves. I was like, yeah, it's great. It's perfect and beautiful. And I'm excited to see how things develop over time. If they have a 5K there and also wearing better shoes so I can explore all the nature aspects of it. And yeah, I thought it was great. And I also felt it was very Disney. I thought everything was really clear and nice and all the people were super helpful. And yeah, Lookout, absolutely. And I feel so privileged to be able to say yes, I prefer Lookout. And I would also say that both islands are great. I would look forward to going back to either one.
Did both of the islands live up to your expectation of them?
I feel like Lookout did in the sense that I've been listening to the show and you guys have talked about how it's just a beautiful beach. And it really is. And as a former Floridian, I used to go to New Smyrna Beach and I've also been to Destin and I've been to these other Florida beaches and they're beautiful. And some of them are prettier than others. But this was to me next level, the blue water and how warm and comfortable it was and how soft the sand was and just the cliffs in the distance. That was really special to me. Castaway was more, I really wanted to do this 5K and kind of see all the things that people have been talking about forever with Castaway. And I wasn't it didn't live up to my expectations. I just don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did Lookout. And I'm absolutely up for trying again though. I feel the whole cruise experience, one thing I realized is oh, I think I could do it better next time. Personally, just me enjoying it. I really feel I think I'm going to do a better job enjoying my vacation next time I do this.
Well, we're going to circle back to that in just a moment. Sadly, your cruise is just about over. Tell us about your disembarkation process. Did you go to your breakfast? What did you do? And then how did you get home?
So I didn't want to go to the breakfast. To me, that's anything with a time, you have to do a thing at a certain time didn't interest me. And what I told my husband, I was tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up. You're going to go to Cove Cafe. You're going to get me a coffee. And I think there might be pastries there. You get a pastry, but bring that back to us and we will get ourselves all situated to get off the boat. We did the walk-off, the express walk-off with our own luggage because each one of us had a piece of luggage that we can just roll ourselves. And so on the Navigator app, it did say that the Cove Cafe would be open. It also had instructions for what breakfast you were supposed to go to. And so my husband told me a small section of cabanas was open. So just FYI, there was he might have gotten muffins or pastries from there. But he came back to the room with the coffees and the muffins and the pastries, and we ate and snacked and all that stuff. and we left. And it was super simple. Like one thing I was nervous about as a first time cruiser, because I'm also like a nervous flyer, I really like to get to the airport nice and early, is that what time should I book my flight? And I remember I emailed you about it, Christy, and you're like, I think anytime after noon, but I booked 2 o'clock. And I want to say like we walked downstairs around 8:30, maybe that, I don't know the exact time. And it was very crowded. It looked a little overwhelming, like in the atrium. And so lots of lines, and definitely people they were confused on where they were supposed to be standing. And at one point I went up to a cast member and he's like, there's 4 lines. Like this cast member was like, there's 4 lines. And you're just like, buddy, he's like, did you just get in one? And I was like, no, it's like, I think people are confused. And I didn't say it like that, but I'm like, I think people are confused. And I was like, where should I go? And then once he realized, he helped start moving people around. And then once he did that, it was like maybe 5-10 minutes of waiting. And then we were off the boat and we already had our luggage and we walked through customs. Customs is what they call it. We went through that and then we walked right outside and there was a spot where you could pick up a taxi. I was going to Uber it, but the taxi people were right there. So I just got in the taxi line and we went to the airport and we got there super quick. It was so easy. It was so easy. And I was like, oh, you just walk off the boat. You don't have to like do that much stuff. It's not like you come back from a international flight, and you know how you're like in customs forever, like that line to like.
Well, that line has improved. It wasn't always that way, or it wasn't always bad, but it was definitely a little bit. There were definite backups for sure.
Yeah.
In the past, facial scanning has been a game changer.
Anything that makes my line shorter.
It was really slick and it was really quick off the boat. And we were like back at the airport in plenty of time. So we got to the airport like way more than 2 hours early, which is perfectly fine. I was happy to have that extra time and know going forward. I was like, oh, that was not something that I needed to stress too much about.
Well, I have just a couple more questions to discuss with you here. First off, you mentioned the photo package. Which package did you buy, and did you feel like you got your value out of it?
I bought the big one. Is that like how I honestly didn't know there was options. It's like I got the unlimited one.
Yeah. So you can prepay though for a 20 picture package or a 10 picture package, or you can do the unlimited package.
Yeah. I got the unlimited one. Like maybe I would do less next time, but I love, like, if you're a parent and you want to get in the photo, sometimes it's not. And granted, like at every character situation, you just pass your phone to the cast member and they take the picture for you, which was awesome. But I loved having the photographer go around and take our pictures on pirate night or at any time.
The light is better on their cameras, I will say, than like on the iPhone or whatever photos, just because of flash or this or that. Yeah, it's better. And you know, in terms of the package too, I have in the past said, well, I'm just going to buy a few pictures or even a 10 picture package. And then I don't want to sit and pick which pictures I want to buy. So I have also just been like, I'm purchasing them all. I don't want to figure it out. So yeah, sometimes just the easier option of let me get them all.
We don't often do family pictures. And I definitely see some people like, and I thought this was very smart. I talked about at the beginning how like, wow, people dress up on cruises.
And they coordinate their outfit.
I know. And they were you know how they're like, take a picture with this thing or like the shield or a boat. I don't know. Anyway, but they were in their nice outfits. And I'm like, oh, that's their Christmas card. That is, great. You know what I mean? And so I could totally see dressing up one evening and just finding all the photographers and getting a bunch of great family pictures for yourself. And I was like, oh, that's really cute.
Would say 90% of people with the photo package, one of those pictures ends up on their Christmas card.
That's my husband's job. He's going to work on it.
What was your favorite space aboard the ship?
Great question. Favorite space aboard the ship? Weird answer. I really liked the stairwells. This is why. I liked all the art. It really made me happy to like watch the art change depending on the stairwell that I was in. I also am very lucky the fact that I'm comfortable moving my body. So like oftentimes I'd be like, we're taking the stairs, kids. And everybody would complain. Sometimes we take the elevator, but like I was very thankful that they had all this beautiful art. And I would, I knew that once we got to Alice in Wonderland, we're almost back to their room. And I loved all that stuff. I almost wish I went down to the other end of the ship and like walked up and down their stairwells to see what was also available there. And then also shout out to Deck 11, where like full deck, chicken fingers, television, aqueduct, all that goodness.
Love it. Let's turn towards some first time tips. What are some things that you wish you knew before you sailed?
If I could have this entire lived experience and all the knowledge that I gained, that's not a tip. I'm so sorry. That's like not helpful, but I think just the acceptance that it is a little overwhelming and that's okay. And you might get on the boat and be like, if you're like me and you're a planner and you plan for your family, you might be like, when am I going to start having fun? When am I going to start having fun? When am I relaxing? Am I relaxing yet? And to know that that will come and you don't have to do everything. And then practical tips, like absolutely, I had the little magnet hooks in my room. They were great. I don't put them on the doors though, because they make little scuff marks. I didn't like that. Put them where they're safe. And I absolutely bought like stuff off the internet for Pirate Night. And that was fun. Like I asked everybody what they wanted and I bought it. And I was like, they might think this is kind of lame, but no, we all got into it and it was super cute and we all enjoyed it. And so all those little things kind of made those nights, like my family got into things. And I'm glad that we had some things to be prepared for Pirate Night or just being around the ship.
Awesome. Did you have any notable cast interactions you wanted to highlight?
I cannot remember his name, but the gentleman who gave the art of the animation tour, I loved seeing his enthusiasm. It was infectious and made me excited to learn about the ship and also just to kind of get to nerd out with somebody about the stuff about Disney that I think is really cool, which is like especially the art side of it and all the design that goes into these projects that Disney does.
Awesome. Well, the final question, and you have alluded to it a few times already. What is next for your family?
Okay. So multiple times on the ship, I turn to a family member and be like, are you having fun? Are you enjoying this? And they'd be like, yeah, this is great. We love this, Mom. And my husband loved it, like absolutely loves the beach. Lookout was slam dunk for him. Castaway was great, but Lookout slam dunk. And we were getting off the boat and I just checked with, well, no, before we got off the boat, I checked with my husband. I was like, I'm going to do this stateroom reservation thing for a future cruise before we get off the boat. But I want to know for sure this is something you want to do again. He's like, yes. And maybe we could do more beaches. And I was like, cool, more beaches. And so we made the reservation for 2 staterooms because that was one thing for me. I was like, oh, I would love to have a little extra space for the family. And then hopefully like space, like have that big veranda. That would be lovely. And so I made the reservation. And then immediately when I got off the boat, I started like at the airport. I just sat there like, going through all the different cruise options. And this was a spring break cruise, and that was great. And it's wonderful to escape the Midwest winter or like, March and come down to Florida. Like that's always nice. However, the cost of the plane ticket was like brutal. Like you think the cruise is expensive? Book a plane ticket from the Midwest to Florida in March and it is brutal. So I'd like us to push it out to the summer of 2026. And I want just more time to like pay for it and make plans for it. And so we're going to do the June 2026 7-night Western Caribbean cruise on the Disney Destiny. And so I'm really excited about that. And so I like texted Christy from the airport. I emailed her. I was like, Christy, we're going to do this thing.
Didn't we like book it that night or something? Like she was literally booking it and planning it at the airport.
Another previous guest talked about like the Navigator app, how it like suddenly you don't have the Navigator app anymore to like look at. And I was like, I want to look at my Navigator app and see my little countdown, which is so stinking cute. And also, it's the Disney Destiny. I don't know if those rooms will be available if you wait too long. I don't know.
Right.
It's quite popular, right?
I mean, there's only 2 7-night cruises too.
Yeah. And so we're going to go to Cozumel and Grand Cayman. And I've already started listening back to your previous episodes featuring Cozumel and Grand Cayman. And we have 2 sea days, which is like super exciting. And then we get to go back to Lookout and Castaway again. So I'm the luckiest lady ever. I'm so excited.
Yeah, what a fantastic itinerary. I will say I miss when they used to have the future cruise desk and you could go and get the paper.
Yes.
And
you could,
Katie and I would spend a whole afternoon circling what cruises we were going to look at. And then you would go and sit down and get the pricing for it. And you could book them at the time.
That's what I wanted. I like went up to guest services and I was like, I'm trying to see, like, I want to book a future cruise, but like, I can't see all the cruises. And Lee's like, oh, just look at your app and blah, blah, blah. And for whatever reason, because there's certain websites that you can just look at, even though you don't buy the internet. But I, for whatever reason, could not get my phone to like load the page that showed me the cruise dates. And so the second I got to the airport is when I started to do that. But I would have loved a piece of paper and a highlighter. Oh, yeah. I would have totally enjoyed that too. Can I mention another fun thing that was like we did on our sea day? And it's like not, I just want to make sure I mentioned it because I thought it was a cool thing that they do is on our sea day, the last movie that they played at like 10 o'clock at night, which is an insane time for me. I was like, but they played Empire Strikes Back. And I like Star Wars. I think it's great. And I'm a sucker for Star Wars stuff. And the fact they're playing Empire on the last day on Funnel Vision, I told my 13-year-old, I was like, maybe we could just go and watch the beginning of it. And so we went. And unfortunately, there was like two dudes talking. And I'm gonna be like, read the room, guys. We're all trying to watch Star Wars. But it was really cool because you don't often get to watch those classic movies on a big screen with like the music and everything. And I was like, that was a great choice. Like, I was super happy that they chose to like show that movie on Funnel Vision at night. And so, yeah, whoever's like the person who just like picks out the movies, that was a great one.
Sometimes you stumble upon some real late night gems. I love when they play the Pirates movies. Usually after the pirate party, they'll play those ones because they are a little bit more mature movies, some of them. It's fun to stumble upon that and just sit down and be like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while.
But speaking of Pirate Night, did you go to the fireworks?
Oh, yeah, we did. Absolutely. So on Pirate Night, once again, our waiter told us, he's like, you got to sit here on the deck because you're going to be looking this way. So you want to sit in this spot and be able to see it. And we're like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like, you got it. You won't lead us astray. And so, yeah, we got all dressed up and we went to Pirate Night and it was a hoot. Like, we loved the show. We sat on the deck, crisscross applesauce, and the fireworks were fun. You know, like, the one thing is, like, small town Wisconsin person, like, our fireworks are pretty darn awesome. They're not theme park fireworks, but it still was a hoot to like have the pirate show. And my kids loved the whole like Hook taking over, and then Mickey and his like band of pirates, or like all of his pirate friends, having to like defeat Hook with our little like call and response game. Slam dunk. Everyone in my family liked it. It was quite crowded, but like I think my kids like that. It's like being at a party, you know, like the music and the outfits. It was just a hoot. And then when we left Pirate Night, we like immediately like found a line for Minnie Mouse, and it was so stinking cute. Like, I loved all the character outfits depending on where the character was. And so we had our meeting with Minnie. And one thing on, I want to say, a recent episode with Joe from Disney Deciphered, he talked about how some characters and the helper are really good about like describing what the character is experiencing at that moment.
Yeah.
And it was cute when we met Minnie, because my husband, of course, like, he was dressed up as Smee. Like, that's what he chose, is like the blue and white striped shirt and the red cap. And immediately Minnie was like, no, thank you. And the woman who was with Minnie was like, oh no, she thinks you're a bad guy. Are you a good guy? Like, Minnie's concerned about this. And it was just really stinking cute. And so we, of course, got some pictures with Minnie once we convinced her that my husband was like cool, you know, like not like Smee.
This is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it all. What great and fantastic tips, and what sounds like just an absolutely first experience with Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah, it was. Thank you guys. I honestly, I don't know if I could have done it without you two. Like, truly, like, your episodes are super helpful and they're super positive and they're also very realistic. You know, there's not like sugarcoating things. And I loved it. And and also like immediately got off the boat. Like, before I messaged Christy, I joined the Patreon because I was like, that's it. I'm going to do this. I'm gonna support the podcast because I really feel like you guys have helped me a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate you filling out the form and wanting to come on the show. I think everyone loves to be able to talk about their cruise, and we love that we have the opportunity to relive it with you guys and share with all of our listeners and guests all of the amazing tips that you're able to give. So, Anna, thank you again so much for coming on and sharing you and your family's Disney dream sailing.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we hope after you get off the Destiny, you would come back on and share your experience as well.
Will do.
Well, Christy, where can our listeners follow you?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Pack Your Pixie Dust, and my website is packyourpixiedust.com. If you need any help planning your future vacation, I would love to help you, and you can reach out to me. There's a link in the show notes to fill out, or go to my website. And Lake, where can we find you?
Follow me at MouseGen on Instagram and YouTube. And you can follow the podcast at DCL Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And of course, help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. But that is going to wrap up the show. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Anna for coming on and sharing her family's first Disney cruise aboard the Disney Dream. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christine, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. We'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.